Foster Friday Live. We are so glad that you are tuning in with us today. We are here with foster parent Corrie, and we are going to be talking about something that's so needed, which is self-care. So Corrie, do you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of what has your journey into foster care and adoption looked like? What is your role in this world?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on today. So my husband and I began fostering about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And
so you're a veteran. You've been doing this for a while.
I guess so. It doesn't feel that way, but for the most part, we've had longer placements. So maybe we haven't had as many children in our home in that amount of time as some other families have. But we've had, I think now I would say we've had 12 children in our home. Wow. And then we did adopt our daughter from foster care in 2017.
So I mean, after doing this for so long, that there are so many rewards and so many joys.
Yeah.
But it's also hard work.
It is. It is. I mean, I think some of it is just the daily grind of being a mom.
Yeah.
That all moms experience. And then I think when you start adding in the layers of kids coming from trauma, dealing with caseworkers and therapists and workers and appointments,
all the things.
Just everything that I'm sure people watching know about. It becomes a lot.
Hey Jill, we're so glad you're here. And friends, as you join us, I hope that you will just say hey and leave us a little comment, because you have been doing this too. If you are in the hard work of foster care, you know how important it is to take care of yourself and take care of your family. So if you have questions, leave them in the comments. If you have suggestions and ways that you care for yourself, share those there too. So thank you so much. Hey Jill, we're glad you're here. And for those of you joining us, we're glad you're here as well. But so what are some of, we talked about like all the things that just kind of pile on, appointments and caseworkers and visits in school and, extra things. What are some of the stressors? What does that do for your well-being as a mom, but also just like as a human person?
I mean, I think you said it really well in the opening statement that you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And it what I think happens over a period of time is that you're spending just so much of yourself pouring into your kids. You're making sure that with the things that are coming up, visits and all different things, that they're being cared for emotionally. So you're mentally always thinking that, what does my child need? If you have biological children, you're thinking, how are they being affected by that? So mentally you're there. I think then when you add the stressor of like, I need to do this, I have to fill my refrigerator, like the daily needs to that. And then sometimes you can have things happen in foster care, which, I mean, everyone knows that life very suddenly gets turned upside down. Yeah. You might have a child come back into care that you didn't expect to come back and care again. You may have a child leave your home very suddenly. Yeah. You may have just other things that are very unforeseen, cases that just go in crazy directions.
Right.
That then there becomes the emotional stress and the emotional upheaval of those things.
So just the normal everyday stuff, but then the mental energy that you spend with that on top of, you want to call it something else, but the worry. Yeah. Like the burden of worrying about the unexpected, because I think that we want our life to be planned out in some way, even though we might enjoy a spontaneous trip or, a friend visiting unexpectedly. Overall, we kind of want to know what to expect from our life. And with foster care, you really have to, I've found myself just having to let go of so much of that. I mean, my husband always says that I am a born perfectionist. I like things to be perfect. And when we started fostering, my just standard had to come down to like, did everyone survive the day? Yeah. Is everyone still alive and the house is still standing? Yeah. All right, today was a success. The amount of energy you have, I don't know, it just changes when you start fostering. Did you experience that too?
I mean, I I want to be sensitive because I think that the degree of stress that are on the children that come into our home and their worry about the future is like so much greater than ours.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, not knowing what lies ahead and things just stretching out over long periods of time with no idea oftentimes what's going to happen. Yeah. And so you have that toll of feeling like really out of control, and like you don't know, you maybe have some ideas about what's best, but you don't know if those things are going to happen or not. What's going to happen, you can't control other people and their decisions. So you have that on you. But then I think also too, it's natural that you're absorbing some of the stress that your child feels about.
Yeah. And you don't want to take them along for the ride of your own emotional roller coaster. Sure. You want to walk with them in their journey, but in that you're taking on their burdens, and that's,
you can't help but be affected by it. You're right. Like you have to have those healthy boundaries of recognizing like you can't be in control, and you have to be the parent. You have to be the adult, and to not, become overwhelmed. Yeah. But at the same time, you can't help but be affected because you
love them. You love them, and you want to help shoulder the burden of anybody that you love.
I mean, anyone that you love, when you see that they're hurting, or you see that they're worried, or they're struggling, you can't help but be affected by it.
So what are some of the self-care skills or techniques, the self-care strategies, hey Lindsay, the things that you've used in your own life to help you kind of find that balance to get to a place where you feel like you can be your best self, most of the time at least?
Okay, so one of the things I really wanted to talk about today, and that I mentioned to you earlier, is that to me there's kind of like 2 layers to self-care, and one of them is kind of maybe what, I hate to use the word surface. I don't know what the word is for it, but I guess I would say
quick fix.
It's the more everyday forms of self-care. And I think that can be so different for everyone, like what they do to kind of decompress or get away. For me, I love to read. So like getting caught up in a novel and just having that time. I love to cook. I'm a huge homebody, and I love to spend time by myself. Yeah, I know that sounds awful, but that's something that I
need that to recharge.
That I use to recharge. I think, a lot of people, I do enjoy sometimes doing things for myself, like going and getting a haircut, or doing things that kind of remind me that I'm not just a mom. That's not my only role. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of like the more everyday things that I try to seek out. And I guess I should say that I have school-age kids. Mm-hmm. All of my kids are in school. So I know it's harder for some moms that they have babies and they have young toddlers, and it can be a lot harder to find that time every day.
Yeah, and everybody's capacity is different.
Yes.
Everybody's daily schedule is different. Yes. I mean, I know there's so many people who watch who, some are stay-at-home parents. Mm-hmm. Some work full-time, some work part-time, some have, Monica, who's typically on here, has 8 kids, and, Jill always, hey, Jill, how many kids do you have right now? Jill always has a ton of kids, and, I just have 2, and so sometimes I find myself trying to compare my capacity with somebody else's when that's not really fair.
It isn't fair.
We're all built differently.
We are.
Our lives are different. Yeah. It's kind of a tangent from what you were saying.
No, but I totally agree. And I think especially we kind of all know that from being in the social media world, that there's this kind of glorification of the hustler mom. She can just do it all. And she just gets her hustle on, and she just, has her cup of coffee, and she just taking care of business. And
I can make an apple pie while also writing a brief for work, and has 3 babies strapped,
and all her kids are Instagram worthy dressed, and
the bows in the hair. Yeah, exactly.
But I think it is like you're saying, it's kind of knowing your own limits.
Yeah.
And not feeling like you have to apologize to other people for those limits. And I honestly feel like I am, I guess I would almost say, a lower capacity person. I just am not someone who can be go, 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 go. or I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
And I have to know that about myself, and I have to protect that so that my family and our home can all be well. You know?
Can get the best of you.
Yeah.
So kind of going back, we talked a little bit, you know, the trip to Target, getting a haircut, getting your favorite cup of coffee or whatever that might be, those kind of quick fix, everyday self-care techniques.
Yeah.
But we want to focus on the deeper, like the true well-being.
Yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, when it feels like maybe all you have time for is a quick fix. Well, or maybe you don't even have time for that.
I think you have to realize that it is not a want, it's a need.
Yeah.
It is a crucial need. And I think one of the things that we need to remember as foster parents, I mean, everybody's foster care journey looks different.
Yeah.
And what they're called to do looks really different. And I know that. But for me, it was always helpful to remember, like, I want to be in this for the long haul. That's my goal. I mean, people will say 7 years, but I've met foster parents that they've been at it for 15.
Yeah.
You know, and I would love to do that, God willing. But I can't do that if I burn out. I can't do that if my family is so affected negatively that at some point my kids say, we can't do this anymore. We don't want to do this anymore.
Well, and we all know foster parents that need to close their doors after the first placement or after the first year.
And it's so worthwhile no matter how long you do it.
Of course, but you also wonder, like, are we creating a community of foster parents? You know, we were talking about that push too hard at the take on more, do more, be more. You know, that maybe if we focused more on this deeper level of self-care, could families persist longer?
I think so. I mean, I do. Because some of the things when we're talking about getting into the deeper level of self-care, and I guess just to share personally, some of the things that I've done is I have met with a counselor before.
Yeah.
I met with a counselor that he specialized in foster and adoptive families and was a foster and adoptive parent himself, and so could really speak into those issues, like some of the emotions that I was feeling that, I mean, I didn't like, and I didn't want to tell other people I was having those feelings. So to be able to sit down and have someone say, I hear you, and it's important. I think that's crucial.
Yeah, and I'm tearing up a little bit because, you know, having someone hear you can validate that you're human and that, you know, this human experience is hard and it's okay to feel things that maybe you think you're not supposed to. And I know last week, hey, Christy, we're glad that you're here with us. Last week we talked about some of the doubts around adoption that foster parents might have and feeling so guilty in those doubts and in the uncertainty and the unknown. And I think that's so hard for us to admit. So seeking wise counsel from, you know, a professional is so key. What are maybe some other things that people might do? So
for me, it was also getting a network of other foster and adoptive moms in my life, people that I knew in real life, because for a period of time I didn't have that. I think in the area where I was living at the time, it's just like the foster families were not connected. And so I started attending a local support group and was able to make some other friends who were foster moms, where I didn't have to worry, like, are they tired of hearing about foster care? Am I going to turn them off with all like my foster care talk? Or am I going to share something that I'm really struggling with and it's just going to be too hard for them to understand? Because I know before I started fostering, I can look back and say, I'm not sure I would have understood it either. So having people in your life that can really listen and spending time with those people, about every other or once a week, I get together with a group of other foster moms and we just meet up somewhere. We meet up at a coffee shop or we'll go out somewhere and we sit at IHOP at like 11 at night. And because after
you have to find the time,
right? And to me, that's like a form of taking care of myself is spending time with my friends. And I will tell my kids that I'm spending time with my friends because it's important, and they know that. So
yeah, and you're showing them by caring for yourself, you're showing them, you're being an example of how they should care for themselves and value their well-being and value who they are and value the things that they enjoy.
I love to remind my kids that I'm not just a mom. Like, I really need them to know that. Like, I am a mom, and that's my great honor, but I have other things that I love too. So,
well, and I think too, just really quickly, so finding your people in real life. That's so key, right? Because we all follow amazing Instagram moms that are just fabulous. But finding your in real life people, and you can do that through your local foster parent association. You can, a lot of churches have foster and adopt ministries. But if you don't have that in real life community, I would really encourage you to join our Share Fostering group, which is a virtual community, but it's a place to start, and you can make those local connections through our Name Your County groups, and just other ways of reaching out and saying, hey, I need some people, I need a village, like who is near me, and hopefully that will help. So Christy says, having someone to share your feelings with that understands is a great way for self-care. Yes, we want someone to say, like, you're not alone. I think that's the most powerful, me too. Like, me too. So I think we've talked about kind of some of the benefits of taking care of yourself, but what have you seen in your own life, the value of committing to some of these things that might not be easy to commit to, like taking time to go see your friends and taking the time and maybe the money, the financial commitment, or whatever that looks like, to see a professional. What have you found is the value or the benefit for you?
I mean, I think one of the things that, for sure, one of the first things that comes to mind is I don't think I would still be fostering today if I hadn't. I think that we've just had enough in the 6 years. We've had enough loss. We've had enough hurts. We've had enough challenges that if I wasn't intentionally doing those things, I just don't think we'd be fostering. I think we'd be at a place maybe in our marriage where things weren't great, because fostering, there's so many things I think that are wonderful about fostering in the way that it can help you in your marriage communicate differently and learn so many things about one another. But it can also be really challenging. So I think it's really benefited my marriage. I think when my husband is also doing things that he loves and enjoys, and he's spending time connecting with other men that he admires, and things like that, I think we have a better marriage as well. And I think just in general, I know that, I think it's in a book, and I'm trying to think of what it is, but it said that something along the lines of, like, in our homes with our kids, that we need to be the thermostat and not the thermometer.
Ooh.
Basically meaning that, like, where we're at emotionally is going to really help set the tone in our home, as opposed to, like, I know there's been times where I have not been in a good place. I've not been in a good place. And then when I've got a kid who's struggling, and I have another kid who's doing the same things they've been doing for 2 years, and and acting out, and I'm getting calls from the school, that kind of stuff. Then it's like, and then the temperature that I'm setting for the rest of my home is just chaos. And if I'm taking care of myself, if despite all these things that are happening, I know that, and it doesn't mean that anything is perfect, but I know that inside my cup is filled, that I'm good emotionally, I'm getting enough sleep, I'm trying to eat well, I'm taking care of my everyday needs, I'm doing the things that fill me up. For me too, it's prayer, and that's something that's very important to me. But having those things in my life then make it so that I can handle those things in a way that keeps the atmosphere in my home and in our lives. I don't know what the word is.
Like level, like level or balance.
Right.
Just like
not perfect. Not like I'm not still having moments, but it's not like I'm just drained and I have that feeling, because we've all been there where we just think, if one more thing happens, I just can't take it.
Yeah, you know, I think no matter what, like, our emotions are going to ebb and flow, but I mean, at least they're not going to like be like raging waves of highs and lows, because if you can find the things that fill you up and get you to that level, that balanced place, you know, and that probably looks different for everybody, I would think. But,
sure.
But that one thing might not tip you off as easily as it did before.
And we're going to have bad days.
Yeah.
And I think that's just being self-aware and knowing what the difference is between having a bad day, having a bad week, being in a rough season, but really being okay or not being okay. And it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, I'm in a really tough place. And that is so hard for us as, I think, foster moms, because by nature, maybe we're more of a helper. It's hard to admit to the people around us we're in a tough spot and that we need additional support. But that's also part of self-care.
Well, because sometimes, and we are getting at our time, but
we're so fast.
But I feel like sometimes I'm afraid to say, like, hey, this is hard, or like, hey, I don't like this.
Yes.
Where I'm at, because I'm so afraid. And people have said, like, well, you signed up for this,
right?
You've
probably all heard that at some point.
Yeah, like, you knew what you were getting into, and it's like, yeah, but when someone's having a hard place in their marriage, you don't say that to them.
Right.
You knew what you were getting into.
Right.
When someone's biological kid gets sick or is having a hard time, you don't say, well, you knew what you were getting into. And so that fear of someone putting that back on us, I think it keeps me so often from asking for help or saying I'm not okay. But thank you, Corrie. I feel like this was so helpful.
I enjoyed it.
Good.
So much.
Thank you all for joining us today. We're so glad that you are all here, and we just appreciate you so much. So I hope that you all go out and choose one thing, just one thing that might help you invest in your self-care and moving forward. So have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Bye.